Hi there everybody, Dave here from HeyUGuys, and again we are here with yet another review. This time it tells you right in front of you what it is. It is Space Force. I'm joined by the wonderful Scott Davis, who has seen half the show, half the series. I've seen all the series. As always, don't forget to like and subscribe when you've seen the show, which is released on the 29th of May on Netflix. Do let us know in the comments what you think. So let's begin. What we think is, straight away, thumbs up. So me and my wife are currently watching The Office, the US Office again. We're season 5 or 6 through. So we are very much in the world of Steve Carell at the moment. Everything. So for me, because I flick between two shows, I did struggle at first to get past The Office, and I think that's just the way it is because he's such an amazing actor. But in this show, he isn't so far removed from his character in The Office that it took me a little while to switch my brain into Space Force Steve Carell versus Dunder Mifflin's Steve Carell. So, yeah, Scott, hit me. What is Space Force? What's it all about? And what did you think?
I can't compare it to The Office because I've never seen it. So the US Office, never. I saw the pilot. I haven't seen.
Oh no, move past the pilot. The pilot is a carbon copy.
I can't do
episode.
it. I can't do it. I can't do it. It's the British one is too close to my heart. Anyway, Space Force. Yeah, so Space Force, like Dave said, it is like The Office. It's kind of a workplace comedy, but this is set in the United States Space Force, which has just been recently set up. It was set up as the 6th branch of the United States Armed Forces. Steve Carell plays a guy called Mark Naird, who is the general put in charge of Space Force, and he has to move his family out of their surroundings into this new space base area, which is top secret in the desert. And he is in charge with putting boots on the moon, which is I think
boots
the
phrase.
On the moon. I think the phrase pretty much maybe not verbatim, but it's close to what obviously Donald Trump said, which kind of formed the basis of the show, which we'll get into. But yeah, it's kind of like The Office. It's set. There's like a whole cast of characters. They're all kind of in this really expensive multi-billion-dollar complex together. And on the outskirts, there's like a living place as well. And Steve Carell is their general, backed up by his head scientist, played by John Malkovich. And it's very much like, obviously I haven't seen the US Office, but from what I gather, it's very similar to that. It's obviously co-created by Greg Daniels, who worked on The Office. He worked on Parks and Rec, so it has that vibe to it. This just has, no disrespect to the other shows, but this has a Netflix budget, so they can do things in this show that perhaps can't do in others, which is to put boots on the moon, as you can see from Steve Carell's face there. And there's, lots of comedy, lots of gags, lots of great characters, and if I could be so blunt and say it's a blast.
Yeah, it is a blast. Boom. It's a shame you've not seen The Office, Scott, because you can't. There aren't many shows you can compare how good this is unless you've seen The Office, I think, and I do encourage you to watch it. I think you will like it. It's very different to the British version. But yeah, what you said about the Netflix budget is spot on. I mean, the set pieces, there's a helicopter in it constantly, whether it's CG or not, who knows? But, just set pieces like this one with a space rocket, whether that's been created in a computer or not, it's still, big budget stuff. And as you said, it's created by the same people who made The Office. I think there's a couple of episodes that have been directed by some of the people that we know well from The Office, as was, The Office at the time. There's 10 episodes in season 1, all half an hour long. So it's all quite short form. And each episode is very specific on its title. Like you can see the titles on IMDb now, like Training and Landing on the Moon and all these other ones. But it's just the characters just make this show absolutely fantastic. You touched on John Malkovich's character. I mean, he's one, but there's just so many. I mean, the list goes on. You've just got cameo. Well, they're sort of cameos, but they're recurring characters from various other big TV shows that you'll know and love. Lisa Kudrow here from Friends, obviously, and yeah, her story arc is quite amusing because, you know, you go from episode 1 where they're a happy family to something happens at the very beginning of episode 2. Or is it? No, it's still the third scene, isn't it? Within the first episode where something else happens to her. But I mean, there's this guy here whose name's Tony, but they all just call him. I'll let you say it, Scott. What's his name?
They call him Fuck Tony.
Yeah, that's what they all refer to him as constantly. That's
Fuck Tony. He's the social media director of
he's the
Space
marketing
Force
guy who's just an absolute pain in the arse, and who knows why they don't fire him. But the tone of the show is very strange because it's in some ways it's hilarious, but there's also this seriousness of we want to get men on the moon. People on the moon, boots on the moon. So it's you're sort of torn between the serious nature. I mean, he's a dad raising his daughter who's going through typical teen stuff, and she's got her own issues. His wife, as you'll find out, you know, she's got her own issues, but yet he's still constantly trying to run this business, get boots on the moon. But there's just so many hilarious set pieces. Scott, you said there was it 2 or 3 episodes in you wanted to talk about?
I won't spoil anything, but it's episode 2. So basically at the start of the show, you learn that after a bit of time's passed, that they've got this rocket launch ready to go, and they're I'm in an whether to do it. Steve Carell's character, Mark Naird, doesn't want to do it because he feels like it's not going to happen, whereas the scientist guys, led by Malkovich and a few others, want it to happen because it's like $6-7 billion of equipment that they want to launch to be able to make the first steps, if you like, to put boots on Mars. So it starts with that, and the launch doesn't go as planned, let's say, and a world rival, shall we say, interferes that isn't part of the, you know, it's very, very, it touches very much on US Far East relations, shall we say, as in the real world, as they are quite tetchy in some ways. Something happens to this launch, but they haven't got enough time to get up to the spacecraft to fix the issue. But then they discover there's already been a launch a few months before where they've launched.
How they didn't know. I love it how they didn't know. So they're like, calling in some other scientists, and it's like, can you come in and just tell us what happened?
Can we call in some other scientists to tell us what happened? And actually what's happened is that there was a space launch a few months ago that involved a dog and a monkey. And then that ensues that may be those lovely animals might be their only hope of salvaging the Epsilon 6 space launch, and hilarity ensues. And I was absolutely wetting myself all the way through. It is very funny, but like you say, that is the slapstick episode, at least so far what I've watched. You know, they kind of mix it with some serious stuff. You know, there's an episode where Steve Carell's character has to try and help a group of astronauts kind of acclimatize if they were to go to the moon or were to go to Mars. So it's reminiscent of, say, the Matt Damon's character in The Martian, where they have to kind of fend for themselves even though they're not too far away from the base. And his anxiety and his kind of, I guess, depression, and they touch on his anxiety and his depression and kind of the way that he's pushed down all of his feelings since, obviously, as you mentioned there, about his wife and his daughter and the pressure that he's under. He kind of has a bit of a, you know, a few revelations as he's going through, which is nice and touching. Actually, it's quite a nice episode. But they can mix that with the slapstick stuff, and I love they always poke fun at. Obviously, it's very much a poke at Donald Trump in some ways about how he wants to put boots on the moon in 2024, whatever it is, even though he might not be president by then. But just the sheer nature of that concept for him seems like that's what we're going to do. It's amazing. We're going to be able to do it USA, etc., etc. And this kind of pokes fun at that, but in the nicest way. It doesn't necessarily directly aim its all its frivolities at said president, but it kind of, you know, goes through the motions of that's kind of what they're kind of filling the gap in between of, well, what would happen if he was able to do it, what would happen? Well, this is what we think would happen, and just the kind of silliness to it. But these are real characters in a real world, and they treat them as such. So there's like they say with The Office, although I haven't seen it, the UK Office was so good at marrying David Brent with the other characters who were the real characters. David Brent was a bit of was the kind of caricature, if you like, but in the midst of all of that, they were able to have these amazing human moments, and this does that as well. You know, it's able to kind of put those two together really, really well.
No, it really is. I mean, there's silly elements like the diner where his daughter ends up working is called Neil Armstrong, on the
Neil
on the
Armstrong.
which on the Space Force base, and there's this constant battle between all of the other special forces, specifically the Air Force, because
scene.
this it's just so good because this chap here, he's head of the Air Force. He thinks he should be in charge of Space Force, and he isn't. And Steve Carell got the job, and Naird got the job even, and So, but that carries on throughout, and they have a great war game at some point where they're fighting against one another, and it's Space Force versus the Air Force, and he's got different characters. Can you see? Oh yeah, you can just see behind here. There's this old guy, and so basically the Space Force is made up of all these old astronauts and and people that have been around a long time, whereas the Air Force is obviously the cream of the crop, young whippersnappers who want to do their best, and so it's just interesting watching that and the dynamic between them all. But the script is fantastic. I think it's the script that makes it. With the Netflix budget, the set pieces are brilliant, the characters are all wonderful. So I honestly think this show's gonna it's gonna blow up. That's what you said earlier, wasn't it?
It's gonna blow up. It's gonna blast off. But yeah, you said that about the cast and the supporting characters. It's also good. You've got, obviously we mentioned John Malkovich, Ben Schwartz, who did the voice, who was in Parks and Rec, but obviously voiced Sonic in the Sonic movie. There's Diana Silvers, who plays his daughter.
His photo's just brilliant.
Brilliant, yeah. You touched upon his daughter Erin, Diana Silvers. She's great. There's Tawny Newsome, who plays the helicopter pilot. She's really great as well. And then you get people like Don Lake, who was in all of the Christopher Guest movies. You get Noah Emmerich, who you mentioned, who was in The Truman Show and lots of other things. Jane Lynch, all these great people that are obviously friends with Greg Daniels and Steve Carell. They kind of come in and do a nice little favor for them. But we have to mention, obviously this is very sad, obviously, but this is Fred Willard, the great Fred Willard, plays his dad in this show, and this is very sadly his last on-screen performance before he died, which was last week, I believe. I think he died last week. Another brilliant moment of genius from him with his wonderful little appearances that he does.
He's hardly in it. I mean, I think
he's hardly in it, but it's nice little cameos, isn't it?
No, but every scene he's in is genius. Like his dialogue is wonderful, and his delivery is brilliant. Yeah.
Or as it always was, as it always is, should we say? But yeah, very sadly, I read this morning that this was the last thing that he did before he sadly passed last week. But everybody, there's so many amazing people in this show, and they all, even if they're in for like a scene or a few lines, every single one is like perfectly cast, because it's almost like they've gone, who can we get for that? Oh, Fred Willard could do that. Yeah. It's almost strange that you get through it, and I haven't gone through it yet, or obviously gone through the cameos or anything, but you get to a point where it's like, oh look, there's Will Ferrell, or oh look, there's XYZ. But they've got Patrick Warburton and Lisa Kudrow, and just the ensemble is just amazing. But for me, as much as I love Carell, I think John Malkovich in this is so good. And I've seen on the Wikipedia that it's almost, I thought, it had a bit of like Doctor Strangelove-esque stuff, and I've seen in the Wikipedia now that that's kind of the basis, is his character is based on Doctor Strangelove, which is great, because he has that kind of, it kind of has that really dark, pithy humor to him, doesn't he? Where he tries to always bring Carell back down to earth and say, unless the science works, mate, you can't do whatever you want to do. I mean, also, he mirrors Trump in a way, like, not that we, whatever, but he always wants to do things before they're possible. It's like, no, we can do this. And the science guys are going, you can't really do that. But Steve Carell, anyway, he's great.
He is great. So I think massive thumbs up. If I could give this a star rating, it's 5 stars. It's hands down. It's so nice that in this nightmare time of COVID that sort of content like this is being made. So this is going to be a huge hit. The end of episode 10, it opens it nicely to a second season. So I'm sure the ratings for this are going to go through the roof. One other thing that kept standing out to me was the marketing. So you can see here in the Space Force logo with the within the space, you've got the spaceship, and actually the marketing throughout the entire series. So everyone's got really cool branded jumpers, t-shirts, hats. It all honestly, they are going to make a mint on merchandise because it looks so good. Like, I'm gonna see if I can find some after this. But the attention to detail is exceptional. So well done to all of the creatives that were involved in making this show. So there we go. So
Sure.
do let us know in the comments what you think. Let us know when you've seen it, what you whether you like it. If you don't like it as well, please do let us know. If you think Scott should watch The Office, the US Office, then let us know in the comments as well. And yeah, do like, subscribe, tell your friends, and we look forward to seeing you on the next one. So take care. Bye.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're watching Hey You Guys!